The Detroit Pistons are bad. Last year they finished with a 14-68 record, and they lost 28 straight games at one point. However, despite their lack of success, did they draft well enough to save their future? And is any of that going to be able to save their season this year? So like I said, the Pistons have just been bad. We all know that. They've been bad once again, 14-68, 28 straight losses. It's pretty bad. Last season, they ranked 27th in offensive rating, 26th in defensive rating, and giving them a -9 in net rating. They're just one of the worst teams. It just is bad. But looking on paper, they've got some pretty solid guys. But this year, they've got a new head coach. They drafted Ron Holland, and they've still got a really good young core. So let's take a look at Ron Holland, because I want to look at the scouting report and see what they need. Now, before we look at the scouting report, here is what I think the Pistons need. They need slashing, shot creation, and hopefully both of those from the wing position, because they've got Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham at the guard, and Jalen Duren is a solid guy in the front court, and guys like Ausar Thompson are kind of like good, very good defensively on the wing, but not kind of the offensive threat that you need. They also have Tobias Harris again, but he's older, so I'm more focusing on like how does the young core work for this team. So Ron Holland, 6'8", 206 pounds, small forward. It's actually taller than I thought he was. I thought he was about maybe 6'6", like a slashing guard. But if you know anything about Ron Holland, you know this dude can slash. He's not a great three-point shooter, but I mean here are his pro comparisons. We got Cam Whitmore, RJ Barrett, two guys who, sure, they can shoot, kind of, but they're not like lethal threats from outside. They definitely are a lot more on the ball handling, shot creation, mid-range, slashing side. So right here, Holland's role will change from moving to the G League to the NBA. His usage will drop and play more to his strengths in an off-ball role that calls for transition finishing, driving off dribble handoffs, and spot-ups and cutting. So you have Cade with the ball 99% of the time, and the other like 0.5% goes to Jaden Ivey. And then that's basically everybody else on that team. So he will be playing a lot off ball. And this is before he got drafted to the Pistons. So I think that this is a very good comparison in terms of players. And I think that's like spot on to how he's going to be able to play. Holland isn't the same level of shooter that Cam Whitmore was in last year's draft, but their play styles are similar. Holland's game will revolve around attacking the rim using explosion and strength. He also has shown confidence in his perimeter shot making despite his underwhelming 24% shooting from deep this season. I mean, yeah, you don't really need, especially if Tobias Harris, you don't need like a guy like in the starting lineup who can just like shoot threes. Cade, not bad. Jaden Ivey, not bad. Jalen Duren doesn't even shoot. He's just a big, like, don't put that on him. But Ron Holland could come in and he's got that 6'8" frame to be a good slashing wing. I think this is a very good situation for him. Holland could also look like something like RJ Barrett, who isn't as athletic but similarly relies on fast breaks and slashing for scoring. I 100% see that. So yeah, they didn't know he was going to go to the Pistons. They put top 5, late lottery for the floor. So physical tools at 6'8", 206 pounds, has the right size for NBA wing. Yeah, that's a good size, especially if he could play defense. They keep their core together. That could be a pretty fun little core for the next couple years, especially with him and Ausar Thompson on the wing, and then oversized guard and Cade to the 1, and then Jalen Duren like backing all those guys up. Ooh, Jalen Duren, look, he reminds me of Dwight Howard in the sense of like, how do you he's just huge. He just is big shoulders, he jumps, he moves well. He's not prime Dwight Howard. Brian Dwight was like one of the best players in the league at the time. But Jalen Duren, same kind of vibe there. That's what I'm getting. So having him defensively is going to be great. Defensively, he's flashed exciting potential tied to his length, quickness, and stretches of intensity. So if he can keep that and maybe get in the starting lineup for the Pistons, I think that's a great thing. I said needs the Pistons have, and it helps that those are exactly what he brings to the table. Transition offense, driving and slashing, defense, energizer potential. Like, once again, him and Ausar Thompson together. Ooh, and Cade, if he steps it up and like scoring wise and averages maybe like, I don't know, like 26 and 8 or something, that would be really, really good. We'll get into Cade later though. However, shot creation, shooting, decision making. So decision making, that's just going to be a rookie problem, everybody. Like, he's not going to be having the ball, so I don't think he's going to be having like a turnover prone kind of guy. Shot creation, that's one of the things that I mentioned for the Pistons to have, but I think that they're going to have to get at with Cade and Jaden Ivey and Tobias Harris if he can provide something there, but that's not coming from Ron Holland. I think he does a lot of things well, and I think he will complement this Pistons team really, really well. So let's look at the Pistons' second round draft pick, Bobby Klintman, number 37 overall. Also 6'8". His pro comparison is DeAndre Hunter, so that's kind of interesting. I don't know anything about this guy. Honestly, I'd love to check it out. Even though Klintman is a project at this point in his career, which is he's just starting his like actual career, the upside of a wing player with long arms who can disrupt shots from an opponent and potentially be able to handle the ball as he gets more refined is a risk worth taking, especially in the second round. Like, why not? You kind of need a guy who can be that shot taker and shot maker down the line, especially from the wing. We have so many wing-driven teams nowadays, and you just need to be able to shoot. And so the Pistons don't really have a ton of guys that can really, really do that. But their main three guys provide a very, very good foundation for the future. So I said that Cade should average maybe 26 and 8 next season. I think that'd be really, really good. And they can maybe they could do something to get in the play, and who knows. But last year he averaged 22, 23, and 7.5 assists. So not super bad. His 3-point percentage is okay. 35, 36% on 5 attempts isn't terrible. I'm glad that the volume isn't like jacked out of the roof where it's just like 9 3-pointers a game. Maybe he gets that up. Maybe he even like increases the volume to like 6 or 7, and then he starts making more on top of adding volume, and then he becomes a really like lethal shooter. That gives you like 2 to 3 points per game. So I think that'll be a really, really good. Kade Cunningham has always been one of those guys that I've liked since high school. He was like actually my favorite player when he was at Montford. I was like, this is my favorite guy over Jalen Green, over everybody else in this draft. I like the fact that he's a big point guard, plays really good defense, he's smart. I just think that the Pistons are such a very interesting organization. They've done a lot of interesting things. They haven't been good literally probably for 20 years since they won in 2004. And it's just, I hope that they do more rather than just like, hey, we got a couple young guys and here we'll just bring in Tobias Harris. Let's go. We have to spend money, so let's bring in this guy. I hope they can do more than that and really focus on player development, because they have one of my favorite young cores in the league. I mean, Cade Cunningham, I talked about him. Next up, I mean, Jaden Ivey and Jalen Durham. We'll get to those guys, but they just have and Asar Thompson. I love Asar Thompson. Ron Holland looks like he's cool. Bobby Klintman, maybe he can get some playing time. They just have a lot of young guys who are really, really good. Marcus Sasser's another guy that I really like. If they can just kind of congeal better and just start winning games and just have fun, there's definitely a lot more to it than that, but I think that that's a great start. And I think they were really hard on themselves. They did lose 28 straight games, but the league is so good right now overall that you're going to have teams like this that are just young, and they're going to be easily the worst team in the league. You just can't do anything about it. Next guy I want to talk about is Jaden Ivey. I mean, this dude is legit. I like him a lot. He's averaging around the same percentage and volume as Cade is on threes. If they can just get better shooting. He plays a decent amount of games, 77 games out of 82. Started a little bit more, came off the bench for a little bit there. But he regressed. So that's where I was kind of like, what? 16 points and lost a full point on his points per game this past year. And I don't know how they really fix that, especially if they have a guy like Tobias Harris coming in. And it's kind of like, we got to give him shots too. That was a guy who just wasn't on our roster. And he's got to kind of be a black hole and take some shots. Now, if that leads to winning, that's what the team wants. But I'd rather have the 21-year-old, 22-year-old taking some shots, getting better, especially when you can have him and Cade going forward. I mean, that's literally a very, 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 very watered down Luka Kyrie backcourt. And I think you understand what I'm saying there. That makes sense to me. That's I said it's very watered down. Don't shoot me. But I think if they can let Jaden Ivey cook more, the end of the season last year, he was balling. There was a game against the Clippers, he had 32 points. And I was like, this guy needs the ball in his hands more often. And he just plays differently than Cade. So I hope that they can figure something out or pick a path and get rid of him and get something back for him and build that way. Who knows? But I like Jaden Ivey a lot. And the last one we're going to talk about is Jaylen Duren, who, dude, he is so big and he's only 20. That's crazy. He shot up from 9 points to 13 points, had 5 more minutes a game. But man, is he, look at this. He averaged 14 and almost 12 last year with 3 offensive rebounds. Now, the blocks, we'll see how that goes. I think Asar Thompson was kind of eating a lot of those up for Jalen Duren. But yeah, it doesn't shoot threes, literally 0.1. 0.1. I wonder how many that is in total. I guess we could check that out later. But 60% from the field is not bad at all for a center, especially in your 20. Like, you just turned 20. Very, very good. I think out of all guys, it's him and Cade. Like, those are two guys you need to keep together because Jalen Duren is so young and already averaging 14 and 12. I don't see anybody talking about that. He could be a giant factor going into the later seasons and a part of their foundation. And you just need so many bigs in the league nowadays. This guy can guard Joel Embiid later down the line, or bigs later down the line. Maybe he's got that great, solid, strong core, just one-on-one defense post up. I'm here all day long in the paint. I'm huge. I'm ginormous, and it's crazy. He's not even getting 10 shots a game, and he's averaging 14 points. I mean, that's if he could average 15 shots a game, he'd be easily 22, 23 points and 13 rebounds. And that's a guy you want in your team for as long as you can have him. Now, are they contenders or pretenders? They are absolutely pretenders. This season, it's all about, this whole series is about this season. They're not contending for anything this year. They have to focus on player development first. Okay, that's what they need to do. They're not focused on winning games. They're not focused on rushing to the play-in. Get your guys to congeal. That's the word I guess I've been using today. It just kind of pops in. And get everything to work. Get your guys developed. Let teams kind of stack down. And then in 2, 3, 4 years, you'll be ready to get up to that, to get to the top of the East and make some noise, as long as you keep this core together and you don't mess it up. I think this is going to be a very fun young core to have in the NBA just going forward. And I think that they could do a lot of damage because Cade hasn't really busted through any ceiling yet. And I'm just waiting for it. And I hope he can, so that we can get that experience and watch the Pistons be really, really good. So Piston fans, I'm here for you. I promise you, I love watching you guys. Sometimes it's it just doesn't work. It doesn't compute sometimes with lineups and stuff like that. It's interesting. That's all I got for today. Check out the rest of the Contenders or Pretenders videos in the playlist in the channel, on the homepage, whatever. And I've got a lot of members only content I'm coming up with pretty soon at the start of the season. I'm trying to do daily NBA coverage if you want to check that out. It's a little join button next to subscribe. It's about $2 a month. You can pick however much you want, and you could support me, and I'm doing a lot of fun content on there coming soon. I already have a little bit of content on there right now, so go check it out. But yeah, that's all I got for today. We out.